Hello, Goshen Theater Drama Club members, fans, friends, and fam. Welcome to episode 25 of Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks. 25. We've been at this for 7 months now. We are about to round out season 1, a 25 episode season. Not bad. Very excited to have this illustrious anniversary today, and a little bit more excited to have this crew of incredible folks with us. I'm your host, Amber Burgess. With me today is the incomparable Paul Regano. Paul, how are you today?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. You do anything artsy this week? Any singing, dance, and acting?
I fixed a song that I wrote.
Oh,
Reworked
that's
it in a
good.
duet.
Awesome. So you did some revisions because the
Yeah,
process is never finished.
that's right.
Wonderful. Akira Watanabe is joining us from Gifu, Japan. Is that right? Did I get it?
Yes,
Awesome.
you got it.
Akira, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Welcome back after your hiatus last week.
Yes, I got better.
Oh, good. We're all very grateful. How was your week? Did you do any acting, singing, dancing this week? Anything
I
artsy?
by myself.
Good. Always good. Yeah, I danced in the kitchen this week. That's about as artsy as it got. I mean, I work here in this building and, try to facilitate the arts community. So I suppose that's kind of an artsy whatever. And I was on the news, but yeah, it is. I think it's one of those things you can't underestimate the value of singing and dancing by yourself in your kitchen or in your car, like taking those opportunities to experience the joy of creating wherever you are, even in quarantine. We're also joined by Randa. Yeah, we're also joined by Randa Meyer Henry today. Randa, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great.
Awesome. Did you do any artsy stuff this week?
Not yet, but I do have a voice lesson scheduled for later today to teach
Oh,
a voice lesson, which is exciting.
ooh, look at you, an arts educator. That's awesome. So what sort of stuff when you're teaching, Randa, what kind of stuff do you focus on with singers?
So the voice lesson that I'm going to teach is someone who reached out to me through a site called Fiverr,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
have never sung before. And so I just before this meeting, I sent them a bunch of follow-up questions because apparently my first questions weren't specific enough, but I asked, so what is your favorite song? Who's your favorite singer? Just so I can get a gauge of like who they are. And they'll probably work through some voice lessons. And if they like me, maybe they'll take another lesson. And if they don't, then they won't.
Yeah, I've taught a lot of things like that. That's a great day job. There's a woman named Kay Kalin. She wrote a book called How to Act and Eat at the Same Time. I think the most recent project that people would know her from is Knives Out. She plays the grandmother, but she was also Superman's mom on Smallville, the TV show from the 90s. Yeah, she's great. She was also in a show called Carnival on HBO, one of my favorites. They got canceled after season 2, so don't watch it because there's a ton of cliffhangers. It will just hurt your heart, but it's so good. So, I mean, if you like heartache, watch it. But in her book, she talks about how if you're an actor or an artist, that's what you should do for your job. Like if it's your vocation, make it your vocation. Don't be a waiter. And she's like, obviously, this is not feasible all the time. Like get a day job when you need a day job, have other skills, do other stuff, but take acting jobs if you're an actor. Don't just wait to have the ultimate acting job. And one of the things that she talks about is you have a skill, teach it. Like teach lessons and do stuff. Fiverr, that's a great resource. There's a bunch of there's some local apps too. I know in Chicago, I'm sure there's one in New York because if Chicago has it, New York has it, except for pizza.
Oh
Oh.
no. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
But those apps are a great way to teach your skills, and actually teaching people makes you better at whatever it is. So it's so cool that you're doing that during this time of social distancing. And Paul, did you have something to say?
No, I just that you're right. New York doesn't have tomato, mozzarella, and dough casseroles that you eat with a fork.
With the sauce on top,
Right.
like a soup.
But in my experience, we haven't been missing it.
Oh, I see.
That's all
I
I'm
see.
Did we
saying.
get a new hot take for the day? Sit down,
That's
run
the
away.
new hot take. Chicago v. New York pizza. That's hilarious. But
That could be very interesting.
what?
That could be a very interesting conversation. That's what I'm saying.
It could, like the artist's opinion on the Chicago versus New York pizza
Hey,
thing.
the culinary work is that's art.
It's true. That's very true. Tina Fey in Bossy Pants writes at length about Chicago pizza and the New York style pizza that she would get from GGO's every single day because it was $5. So she'd pick up a whole pizza on her way to work. She talks about that in Bossy Pants. It's pretty fun. Artists, tie-in, pizza. There it is. Bringing it all together. Oh, so today for episode 25, our guest of honor is Miss Katie. Katie, how are you today?
Doing as well as any of us can do, I think, right now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a dumpster fire.
Yeah, a little bit.
Have you done anything artistic this week?
Monday night, Andrew Byrne, who is a vocal coach, very intelligent human who lives in New York, and I've done a couple workshops through school with, was hosting a birthday party where he did like brain tests on everyone and how they affect your voice.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, he loved every second of it. He's like, this is the best thing I've ever done for my birthday. And I was like, I think that's amazing. So like we did a bunch of brain tests and everything on Zoom, and then you would test your vocal and how it affects like your body and the way you sing. And it was very interesting.
I love it. I now
Yeah.
want to do all those things. As a social sciences person with a bachelor's degree in social sciences, that kind of stuff butters my bread. That is so cool.
He has a website that has to do with this specific part of what he teaches, and it's called the Singing Athlete. The Singing Athlete. So you can go to the singingathlete.com, or you can look, I can't even say it, or you can like find his book as well. But yeah.
Awesome. That's so fun. What a cool thing to have done, like a little crossover with the sciences there, Paul.
Yeah.
Oh, just if that's like if that kind of stuff is your jam, have you read This Is Your Brain on Music?
No. Okay.
Pick that one up. Put it
All
on
right.
your Kindle, whatever people who read do.
I was like, we should do a workshop with the kids. Like, let's bring Andrew Byrne in and learn about our brains.
Done. You know, I'm happy to. We were talking earlier this week about the sort of content for camp coming up next summer for 2021. And we're talking about, and kids weigh in if you'd like to, kids and parents, we're talking about doing a content creation week of camp that's separate from Goshen Theater Drama Club. So this would be open up to some older kids as well. But content creation camp would be learning audio editing, how to record using low tech and stuff that you have at home, including just like a phone or like a tablet, whatever, and how to edit using like easy software, or even like how to get access to other stuff through your educators. But then how to set up a shot, how to edit audio, what you're looking for, and how to create content. So, you know, storyboarding and through line format, all that stuff. So yeah, we're thinking about doing that, adding that as a camp week previous to Goshen Theater Drama Club. The kicker here and the fun part would be that crew of folks who took content creation camp would have the option to document Goshen Theater Drama Club's 3-week program and create a podcast and a documentary about Goshen Theater Drama Club for the summer 2021. So we are thinking about doing this. We're trying to get those logistics set up. So give us your feedback if that's something that sounds interesting to you guys. But again, it's that sciences, media, arts crossover business. And we're all storytellers. It's just a new and interesting way to tell stories. So give us your feedback on that. Thanks, Miss Katie. You inspired me. Oh, guess
I love
what?
that.
My phone's ringing.
They're calling about camp, right?
They are. They're like, we heard. It's in my hand.
We haven't even released the episode yet, but we heard there's new information on camp.
There was a disturbance in the spirit wind. So if you've never joined us before we get into the meat of our episode every week, we do something called hot takes. We either answer one of your questions or take one of your comments and discuss it, or we discuss a little bit of a spicy meatball. Sometimes literally if it's a pizza discussion. But we talk about a controversial issue that might be divisive in the world of theater. This week's hot take is you need a collegiate education to be an artist, true or false. Many of you may have noticed that we have been without Miss Molly for a number of weeks. She's in the process of rehearsing a little show called A Christmas Carol down at the Barns at Napanee, the Round Barn Theater at the Barns at Napanee. Prepositions. But she's down there in rehearsals, but she didn't want to miss out on this hot take today. So she sent me her response, and I'm going to read it to you all. If I can get it open, here we go. Do-do-do-do. Isn't this fun watching me pull up an email? Okay, so if y'all have tuned in before, you probably know a little bit about what Miss Molly's going to say because she has her Molly-colored glasses on all the time, so she's a very positive person. But here is what Miss Molly has to say. Okay, that's literally written. Okay, Long story short, no, I don't think you need, all caps, a college degree to be successful in theater. However, I think for most people it is smart to get one. At least for me it was. But I'm the type of person that thrives with structure and learning, and overall, I love school. I think my take is that assuming you want to go to school for theater, you don't have to go to the most expensive or reputable or prestigious program to become a successful theater artist. You need to find a program that challenges and believes in you at the same time and is really going to give you the education to succeed. And that doesn't have to be in a BFA program at the University of Michigan, which is an amazing program. And if you get in, you should definitely really consider going, haha. But auditions there are really just a lottery and don't represent your worth as a person or performer. And parenthesis, at the end of the day, you'll be successful in theater if you have the tools and drive to be successful, not the degree. Enjoy my hot take, exclamation point. So that is Miss Molly's answer. There's a lot to agree with in there. There's a lot of, nuance and subtlety. Since it's your day, Miss Katie, why don't you tell us what you think on the hot take today?
Yeah, I don't think you need a college degree to do what we do. Once again, I think Molly is right. I think it's a place to learn your toolbox and what works for you. And that's great. But you don't have to go to college to earn that toolbox, to learn that toolbox. There are classes that you can take in the bigger cities. You can join an actor's studio, do workshops, do whatever you need to do to get the information you need to help you on your journey. I would say that I probably would not have succeeded in this business without going to college, in the sense of I had no idea how to actually make it a career. I knew it was my passion. I knew I loved it. I knew that I needed a lot of technique-based training still, and I knew that I needed to know the industry and how to actually get into it. What are auditions like? What's expected of me? That kind of thing. And those things I was able to learn and more with the program that I auditioned for and became a part of. We're doing laundry at my house. Sorry, guys. But I think that information, you can find it on your own, simply by looking online, by talking to your friends who are in the business, by making those connections, by taking those classes in the city. So I don't think you need a college degree at all. I know people who have been wildly successful without earning their college degree. I also know people who were wildly successful before they earned their college degree and have since returned to earn that college degree because they know that they can use it for other things along the way. So it's not necessary, but it gives you a toolbox. essentially. So if you are someone who thrives under structure like Miss Molly or myself, then maybe college is your option, but it's not your only option. And you know, reach out to us and we'll help you figure out what the best options are for yourself, you know, what works best for your learning style. If you're a person who hates school, don't go to a 4-year program, guys, because guess what? If it's not a conservatory, you're gonna have to take gen eds. Like, and if those are not your thing, if you will fail at that and that'll ruin your time at college, then don't do it. There are other ways to do this career. It's mostly knowing what you need and where you need to get it.
I think that's smart. Akira, what's your hot take?
Same. I agree with Molly and Katie. I don't think college degree is not necessary. But same for me, since I went to college out of my home country, so it was a really good experience for me to know what's outside of the world, what other people think, how they got educated before they come to college. So that was really nice. As long as if you can dance so well, if you can sing so well, I think in the show business, you'll be good to go. So degree is not necessary. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'll say as a casting director, it was very seldom that I would look at a resume and go, or look at a person and go, oh my goodness, they're so gifted. Where did they go to school? And look at the resume and it said like Debbie Dinkle's Community College of the Arts. Like I wasn't like, oh, nah. Like I didn't look at the school someone went to if they were gifted and go, oh no, pass. That never happened. Paul, what's your hot take?
I think mine is going to be pretty warm. I am going to disagree slightly,
Yes,
only just to stir the pot a little.
of course.
I will fully accept what first of all, I don't think it surprised anyone on this panel that Miss Molly said that she loved school. Secondly, love you, Molly. Hope you're watching. I'm sure you were the kid sitting in the front row who reminded the teacher to give everybody homework. So while, yes, I will fully accept that it is not necessary, the way the question is phrased kind of answers it for you. There are absolutely no absolutes. Of course, it's not impossible to make it in this business without a college degree, but there is something that a college degree offers you that has not been discussed yet, and that is people, connections, networking. I've never looked at someone's resume and said, oh, they went to such and such a college, forget it, I'm not casting them anymore. But I might look at it and go, oh, they went to so-and-so. I know such and such who's on the faculty there. Do you know this person? Or I'll call that person and say, hey, this person auditioned for me. Tell me about them. Should I cast them? Should I hire them? I often thought, I went to state school. I loved my college education. I loved the experience that I had there. And in the years shortly after, a lot of the work that I was doing, I moved to Chicago. I went to school in New York. I moved to Chicago, and every show that I did there, I would meet my castmates and I would say, you know, how did you find this? What have you been working on? And they said, well, oh, my college professor recommended me this. My college professor is director with this, and he said that I should do this, and so on and so forth. And so especially in a town like Chicago, where there are a lot of really strong liberal arts colleges, there is going to be an intermingling of people who work in the theater scene and teach, which is very helpful. Obviously, New York has that too, to a different degree. I think there are many varying levels of that. So again, while I will acknowledge that it is perfectly possible to, the support system, the networking, even your fellow students, when you get out, I mean, at least half of the people that I work with now are connections from college. You meet people who are like-minded in college. You're able to really, for the first time in your life, create your own tribe and hub of people. You're on your own and you're able to say like, oh, I vibe with this person, this, you know, we have a good rapport. I want to keep doing stuff with them, and you can. So I think that at least in the climate that the arts are in right now, it is a college education is not to be dismissed. And like Miss Katie said, you can get all of that without going to a full 4-year college. Go to a conservatory, just take classes. That will also build your network. And then on top of that, like if you're in your late teens or early 20s, I promise you, you don't know as much about acting or singing or dancing as you think you do. Listen to people who are older than you, take classes. You're going to get better. I know that you think you walk on water now. As good as you are, you will be made better by listening to someone who does it professionally and teaches it professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you play better tennis? Play with better tennis players. Yeah. Miranda, what's your hot take today?
So I think that this hot take could literally be a 2-hour-long episode because I think that everyone has their own individual path, and so depending on what you want your career to be, should kind of influence where you're going to school, what you're going to study, how you're going to study it, who you're going to study with. So I mean, if you want to, you don't need it. You don't need it. You should get it. I could go on for forever because I went to a small liberal arts college, and being on a Broadway national tour with all of these people who are straight out of college, I asked them, how did you get this right out of college? And they said, my college put on a showcase at the end of my senior year, and I got connected to an agent who then connected me to this casting director who then got me this tour. So those connections are super important. If you don't want to be on a Broadway national tour, then that doesn't matter as much. You could just go take some class. You could go to take some classes at Second City and just work in Chicago, or you could go take some classes in LA and try and get into the film scene. It really just depends on what you want. And I don't want to ramble anymore.
This is actually a really good thing for all of you that are considering in the next couple of years what your next steps are going to be. There are certification programs, conservatory programs that don't give you a degree, that will give you a certification or a certificate of completion, that still do showcases and still do showcases in Chicago and New York City. So those are pretty well attended generally because, you know, agents don't make money unless they have talent to sell. So they're not gatekeepers, they are gate openers. So people think of them as like people that will stop your career. They're not. They're people that will push you forward and take 20% of what you make. So these are good questions. Yes, these are good questions to ask when you are shopping your programs, because like, are they going to give you a scholarship? Like, is there a way to help finance it? 1, 2, how do they set up their actors for success after college? And 3, what kind of program are they? Are they the kind of program that's going to mold you into their ideal version of what is successful on Broadway? Or are they the kind of program that's going to allow you to be your own artist and find that voice while you're in college? Both are valid, by the way. Not one isn't better than the other. Like, they are both absolutely valid. One's more athletic. So if you're more of the athletic type, like the athletic actor who's like, yes, I can do that. If you're that person, if you're over here and you are more in the creation side and that like you want to find your own inner voice as an artist and have a creative expression that you might not even fully understand yet, then like make sure that you're asking the right questions is the point. Don't be dazzled by the fact that the quad has enough space to play Frisbee, because you're not going to care about that. Like, you're not. And you're not going to care what color. Shut up, Paul. You're not going to care about
Frisbee in college.
Well, Paul cares about it. So you don't care what color the trees turn in the fall. Honestly, you're probably not going to care what your buildings look like that you walk into where you get the education. What you're going to walk away with is your actual education. Here's 3 things. This is my soapbox on this hot take. If you are autodidactic means that you're the sort of person who is a self-teacher. If you look at something and go, okay, I'm going to learn this skill and I'm going to teach myself to do it. I'm going to seek out teachers and I'm going to seek out mentors who are going to help me do it. If you're naturally autodidactic, if you've ever taught yourself to play an instrument, or if you've ever said, you know what, I'm going to learn woodworking, or this summer I'm going to volunteer, I'm going to do 50 volunteer hours over my summer break. If you've ever succeeded at one of those projects, you're probably an autodidactic person. Whether you are going to a college program or you are intending to start out on your own, you need 3 things. 1, a tribe. So seek out your tribe. Don't be afraid to be social. Find those people. If it's in college, that's great. If it's not in college, that's also fine. But do it. And if you're an autodidact, then you're taking classes, and those classes are going to help you find your tribe. The nice thing about doing it outside of college is that you might find people who are better than you in those classes, who have more experience in the business if you're doing it that way. 2, you need your actual education. So I wouldn't say any person is just ready 100% out of the gate to go do anything. You still need your education. So if you are going to self-finance it, take individual classes and go to the city and take improv and take acting and all of that, those classes are there, but you have to take them. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants without structure. So you need a tribe, you need education, and Paul has something to say.
Oh, no, I just unmuted myself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I was really excited.
All right, I totally agree with everything you say. That's what I had to say.
The third thing that you need that is so much easier to get if you're in a collegiate environment is accountability. Literally at the end of every 8 weeks when you're in college, someone says, hey, you're failing at this, you're succeeding at this, get better at this, and get better at this too. Every 8 weeks, someone checks in with you that is a mentor that you are forced to have. And they say, hey, these are your grades, this is what's happening. And you need that accountability in your life. It's harder to get that accountability for your education, accountability for tribe building and culture building when you are doing it on your own. It's still possible, but you need to be accountable to yourself. You need to be your own academic advisor. So those are the 3 things that I think that you need, and you can get them in college, you can get them out of college. It's definitely easier to spend $60,000 a year and let someone do it for you. But it's also definitely easier to not owe $240,000 at 22. So you just choose. That's why the financial aid and the scholarships and all of that is so important. If you guys need help, let us know. This group of people, write it down in the comments. Let us know. We're more than happy to help with your essays, your auditions, all of it. And if there's a topic or something like that that you guys would like us to cover in Table Talk, like how to write a good arts essay, for blogs or for submission for contests or admission for college or whatever, let us know. If you guys are interested in those episodes, we definitely can talk about those things. But yeah, tribe, education, accountability, written on a receipt from the veterinary hospital for all of you today.
Here's
Everybody
the tea.
okay?
Yeah, my dog Oxford eats expensive food and it's prescription food. So I have many of these.
Got it.
Yeah, everybody's happy. Happy puppies. My puppies are also actors. They could give you some input as well on, skill building, essay writing, careers. Were you saying something, Miss Katie?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Weren't the letters spelling out tea?
Yes.
You should put a
Drink your
coaching session
tea.
together where you do a whole special on this, and it's just called "Here's the Tea from Amber." You're welcome.
Done. I'll just do a just me table talk. It's not even a table talk. It's just a chair. Just me all alone. So that was hot takes. The main part of today's episode, we are dedicating to Miss Katie. We've been doing a series, which most of you know at this point, where we interview our own panelists here so we can get to know them better and really get to know how they got to where they are in their careers. We have a diverse array of people doing a diverse array of things, and like very different places in their careers right now. So I thought it would benefit all of you and us too, to get to know everybody. Today is Miss Katie. As you guys know already, Miss Katie is the director of our summer program at Goshen Theater Drama Club, and hopefully her involvement with Goshen Theater Drama Club will continue for years to come as we grow the program, and hopefully we can grow as educators together as well. But I met Miss Katie kind of through an education program, kind of through theater. I cast her in shows at the Rum Barn Theater, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made. And yeah, the way Katie came to us is through a personal recommendation from a friend of hers that she had worked with somewhere else, because she was so good, applied herself so well, was so gifted and kind that people recommended her for jobs, and I trusted those people, and that's how it happens. That's what it is. So don't forget to be kind and be on it whenever you are doing your jobs, doing your work, doing your education. Thank you, Miss Katie, for agreeing to be in the hot seat today. Anything to start? Anything you want to like give us a little brief intro to Miss Katie?
Oh yeah. Well, you guys basically have been with me since we started this, so you've probably already heard my spiel, but I'll give it a rundown real fast. So I grew up in a very small town in Sullivan, Missouri, and that's where my family still all lives. I went to my college program was Missouri State University. I have a BFA in musical theater from down there in Springfield, Missouri. After college, I worked professionally as an actor on and off, and working a day job back home in Sullivan. I'd travel back and forth when I was off contract. And then finally in 2014, so I graduated in 2013. In 2014, I made the move to Chicago. And then I spent all of my time not in the city after that, because I was touring with Prairie Fire Children's Theater. I was working in Rum Barn Theater down in Indiana, or wherever I was. And then about 2 years ago, I headed back from a contract at Rum Barn from that summer, and I booked my first Chicago show at the Royal George Theater, where I performed in Waist Watchers the musical, and I was the swing understudy for 4 other ladies, and I had my own track, and I went on for everybody except for one person. I ended up taking over a track permanently. And then after that ended, I started working my day jobs a lot more, and started running into some mental health issues because of that. And so for the past 2 years, I haven't really performed, but I've been able to teach in those 2 years as well. So that has kept my little soul happy, gives me something to look forward to. And yeah, so I work in the food industry a lot. I've been working there for all of my life, basically. And I'm an actress. That's a lot. I don't even know. I'm rambling, guys. Someone ask me a question. Get me back on track.
Oh my goodness. So Katie, we had talked about, like, I think for a lot of people, their career sort of evolved from being a performer or being someone who's a theater person, and you kind of start to specialize. So I think that's the part of your story that I really love, is that like you are kind of like getting into that place right now where you're discovering those specializations, but still I'm sure you'll start performing, or there will be performance opportunities in the future as well. So we're going to open it up to questions now for Miss Katie. Akira, why don't you start? What's your question for Katie?
Hey.
Hello, friend.
Hey. So if it's too personal, you don't have to answer, but
You know I'm a pretty open book on this, so let's go.
I know you have family, and I know you are an amazing actor. So when I think about the future, I'm always hard to take a balance between having a family but being an actor on the stage. So my question is, how do you take a balance between these important things?
It's so interesting that you asked me that question, Akira, because I used to ask that question to older actresses all the time, and actors. Whenever they'd come for like workshops or whatever at college, I'd be like, okay, have you thought about like what you want to do like family-wise or whatever? I had come to the conclusion in college that I would never ever start a family. that I just probably wouldn't get married, I wouldn't have any kids, because I felt that my career was the thing that I had wanted my entire life. I had worked very hard to get it started, and I was too selfish. I felt like I couldn't dedicate the right amount of time to my family if I were to start one, because I came from a family where my parents were at like everything, right? They were a large part of my life. My mom was the president of the booster clubs and like did all the fundraising for all the boosters, and she was my Girl Scout leader, and she cleaned my dance studio so I could take dance lessons all of my life. Like, my parents were very much involved in my life, and they were very supportive. They came to every concert, every performance, and I wanted to do that for my child. And you can't guarantee that you're going to be able to do that for your child in this business. And so in college, I came to the conclusion it just wasn't going to happen, right? It's not something that I really thought would happen for me. Out of college, I met someone who I started thinking, oh, he's in the same line of work that I'm in, and maybe we could, right? He thinks it's a possibility for his future, and maybe it could be a possibility. So I started opening up the possibility of maybe I could, if I found the right person, right? If I found the right person who was going to support me in my endeavor for this career and to balance a family and help me do that, then maybe I could. And then I just kind of fell into a family, right? I already had a pre-made family made. I met a wonderful man who had already been married and divorced with a sweet little girl, and I fell in love with her, and we clicked, and he just never went away, even though I told him to, because he's crazy. And now we're married, guys, and I have this beautiful little girl who. She may not be my flesh and blood, but she is. I would literally kill for her. So don't mess with my kid. But the question now becomes, how do you do it, Akira? And I don't know, but the answer is I don't have a fear of that anymore. That fear is gone because it'll just happen. I'll make it work. I'll figure it out, because these two things are very important to me and they are a part of me. And so they'll just work, which is what people used to tell me when I asked that question. They'd be like, you just do it. And that was such an unsatisfying answer overall when they would give it to me, because I wanted the book. I want that structure. But honestly, that is the answer. It just happens. It'll happen if it happens. And if you find the right person, it'll happen. So there you go. That's my answer, Kira. Sorry.
Thank you. I'm so glad you are happy, and I'm so glad.
Thank you, my love.
I love that. I think that could be taken to not just the balance question, but then the things just happen the way they happen. Like, that can kind of be taken not just with relationships or family versus your career. Like, there's other stuff too. Like, if you're the sort of person who is open to the experiences in your life, like we try to encourage everybody to be, right? Then those things sort of occur in the periphery, and you cannot force yourself into having a fulfilling family. Like you can't force it, just like you can't force a theater career. Like, you can't make people make art with you. Like, you've got to be open to the experience of working with other people in every way. And achieving balance is something that you have to do in the moment. It's not something you can plan to do for later. You can't say, oh, you know how I'm going to balance these things that I don't have or that may occur, but that's just, that's overthinking it. But that's a great question, Akira. Thank you for asking that one. I love it. We're going to go over to Paul. Paul, what is your question for Miss Katie for today?
I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. That was a really great question, Akira. That was awesome. But mine is more about your work as an educator, which I have seen in action. It is a beautiful thing to witness, and I've seen the passion that you bring to that and the work that you put into it, and I'm wondering how much of your training in performance in the theater overlaps with that, and then how is it different?
Yeah. That's a hard question, but a good one. Because I don't have an educational background to be an educator, I think the only way for me to be an educator is to pull from my own skill set and knowledge. So like that training that I have is the only way that I know how to teach my kids, because I don't play the piano. So I can't vocally teach a child notes, right? Because I can plunk notes, but it's not going to be in the rhythm that they need. What I can do is do a repeat after me, sing it for them, and then they sing it back to me. So I may not have every tool set to make them the best, but I can find other people who will, and I can help them practice. And I keep coming back to the word facilitator when it comes to my theater educator persona that I have started to develop. And it's that, like, I'm not a trained educator. I don't know all the ins and outs of education, but I know the industry, and I have a wide range of people who I know are very knowledgeable. And if I can't find the answer, I know they can, or they can teach it, right? So I can facilitate that knowledge for my kids. So I feel like I'm more of a facilitator most days than an educator, honestly. I don't know if that answered your question, Paul.
No, it does. And I think it's so interesting that like what you're talking about is that like collaborative theatrical spirit of like, if I don't have it, I'm going to bring, if we're going to stone soup this thing, and I'll bring in the people who do have it. And also I think art is about communication. It's about storytelling. It's about finding connection. And that's what you do as an educator as well. I'm not saying you, the university, you literally, I've seen you do this, is that you are able to communicate with kids really well.
I just find if you talk to them like humans, it really helps, guys. Don't talk down to kids. If you're an educator, please don't talk down to your kids. Your children that you work with, your young adults that you work with, they're brilliant. They may not understand terminology right off the bat, but they will. And I just don't believe in talking down to kids. I think you talk to them at an expectation level, and they rise to that level every time. That's what I found with kids. They're resilient and brilliant.
One of my favorite educator moments with Katie was when we were in the first week of drama club and we were working with the older kids, and we had asked them, this is like a big ask too, we had asked them to write and format a DIY ancient Greek tragedy based on a fairy tale. And they picked the fairy tale, but we went through, we did the, like, all of the different pieces, including the musical interludes, where they got to select what the songs were for the musical interludes that are like an allusion to the different parts of the Greek play. So we had all of this stuff, and these kids came up with a dark, brilliant version of Hansel and Gretel that still had like modern, I don't know, like modern lessons that they could take away from it, and a modern sensibility, even though it was a combination of a fairy tale written 300 years ago, 400 years ago, and a format that's 2,000 years old. Like, they took those two things and somehow made a modern relevant. I was like, and my expectation was that it would be very basic and whatever, we'd write it down and the kids would do the stuff they needed to do. But yeah, and it was Katie's work with those kids. It was her inability to underestimate her students that really facilitated that. So that is one of my favorite educator moments with you, Katie, and camp in particular. Like, on the education, this is not my question, but on the education front, what was your favorite thing about working with the kids this summer in drama club?
It was those extra moments that actually had nothing to do with theater. Like when we had our older girls, and one of them confided that she faced bullying at school, and you walk them through the step. Well, what did you do when that happened? Like, who did you go to? Did you go in and talk to your teacher? Yes, I talked to my teacher. Nothing happened. Okay. Did you take it a step further? Yes, but nothing happened. Okay. Did you tell your mom about it? Well, she knows. Okay. you need to talk to the principal again. It's those extra parts where my kids are facing hard things in the world and in life, and I want to give them that safe harbor here. It's letting them know that even though I'm not with them every day, that if they need to, I will call their principal. Like, I will go to bat for you. When all others have failed in the system for you, I want to be the one that will take that extra step for you. And I hope that I come across as that person. So it's actually like, I love the artist part of camp. I love seeing what they come up with. It blows your mind. But it's those private moments, those connection moments with your kids where you actually feel like they know that they're safe right now. They know that they have someone on their side. And those are the most powerful moments for me, I think.
It happened again, Katie.
It did. I knew it would. This is what happens.
It is. Oh, it was a beautiful answer. All right. We're going to move on from that. Randa, please take us in a different direction. What's your question for Katie?
It is a very different direction. So I know that for me, graduating from a college in the Midwest, I had a really hard time deciding where to go once I graduated. And you talk about going to Chicago. I was in Chicago for a little bit, and then I went to New York. I've kind of been everywhere, but I want you to talk about your experience with Chicago and why you chose to go to Chicago.
Yeah. So Amber mentioned that at the end of your semester, you always do a semester review with, your professors and stuff in college, and they talk to you about like where you're at on your journey and give you advice and give you things to work on and whatnot. I was in my final semester review for my senior year, and it was with just two of my professors because everybody else was booked at that time. And it's just two of my professors, Sarah and Maggie, and we're sitting in this conference room, and I recorded it because I like to record things so that I can listen to them later. And it's just this conversation of me crying, because that's what I do, and like becoming emotional and like not knowing where I wanted to go, because I had showcased in New York and gotten pretty good responses. I had showcased in LA and had gotten pretty good responses, but I didn't know where I could go. And a lot of that had to do with financial for me, because I'm on my own financially. My parents would love to help me, but they can't financially. They've never been able to be those parents for me. That's fine. I love them. They support me in so many other ways. But I didn't have that fallback. I had to make it on my own, and I just was scared. I was scared to pull the trigger and finally decide where I wanted to go. I've always wanted to go to New York. And then, so we have this whole conversation about, well, there's LA, and like, I really like LA for these reasons, but I don't like the industry out there. And I like New York, but like, I hate cold weather all the time. And like, so LA has beaches, and like, I had just gotten this I was about to get a brand new car. So that threw a wrench in my plans too. Like, I can't take my car to New York. That would be crazy. So maybe I should go to LA. But there's this one moment right before the tape ends where I said, and then there's Chicago. Just out of nowhere. I just plop it down, and the professors are like, here's what you do. You flip a coin, and if your heart drops for whatever the answer is, then you're not going there. You're going to the other place. They also made it very clear that you can go wherever you want to go and try it for, say, a year. And if it doesn't feel like the right fit for you, you are young. Go somewhere else. You are able to make those choices for yourself. So all that to say that I went to Chicago in the end, which is super weird, but I loved it. And I think that came because I had finally gotten away from the small town that I lived in, where I was miserable a lot of times when I had to go home from college or from a contract and work my day job at McDonald's, which I hated. So Chicago, there's always stuff happening, just like in New York. But I am not the best person to tell you about the industry in Chicago, because I spent all of my time when I lived in Chicago not auditioning in Chicago. I did auditions outside of Chicago for like Midwest and UPTA. And so all of my bookings would come outside the city. I never took an audition in Chicago. Even the one Chicago show that I got was through recommendation of a friend and a video submission. So I can't tell you enough about the industry to comfortably tell you, like, this is what you have to do to make it in Chicago. What I will say is you can make it all these other ways. There's so many different avenues in Chicago. If you want to do improv theater, Chicago. If you want to do storefront theater on like the smaller level of theater where you get to explore your artistry, Chicago. If you want to do commercial industry musical theater, Chicago, guys. If you want to be auditioning for tours, Chicago. They have tour auditions all the time. So you can find whatever you find in New York, in Chicago. I loved it. I was able to keep my car. Which was huge for me because I just bought this car. But yeah, so I don't know enough about the industry because I didn't get to audition a lot when I was there, but I loved living in Chicago. It's a great, great city to be in.
The other thing I think that needs to be said about the Chicago industry side of it is, I heard a statistic, and I don't know if this is true, and maybe you guys can tell me how wrong I am, but I heard that if you are a working actor in Chicago, you are more likely to book a Broadway show being a working actor in Chicago than you are to book a Broadway show being a working actor in New York. And one of the reasons is that the Goodman and the Steppenwolf both routinely take their productions to Broadway, and getting in at the Goodman or Steppenwolf is not as hard as you would think it is, particularly if you're EMC. So yeah, and like that's even like people buying you into equity and all that stuff. So I heard that statistic. I will say the closest I've ever been to booking a Broadway show was from an audition in Chicago. And the closest the commercials that I made, I booked out of Chicago, and those filmed in New York. So like Chicago has New York auditions and agencies and all that.
There's a lot of film work in Chicago, guys, like Chicago PD, Chicago Fire, all those things, like they book in Chicago. Yep. Like if you're looking for television work, go to Chicago, guys, because it's also cheaper to live in Chicago than it is in New York.
It is.
So
there's a lot of filming there, a lot.
I will say this about Chicago. I was only there for 3 months, and I auditioned as much as I could, and I found that it was very cliquey. It took me until my 15th probably audition to get a callback, which is normal. That's totally normal, and that's fine, but it can be disheartening. That's my disclaimer about Chicago.
A lot of storefront theater and the commercial one, very, very much so. But I think you find that in most places.
That's true.
Once you work for a company, the chances of you working for that company again, if they liked you, if you had a good attitude and they enjoyed working with you as a person, the likelihood of you being rehired is so much higher than Joe Schmo off the street that they've never worked with, because they already know. They already know you. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, the way to get into the clique too is if Chicago sounds like the kind of place you want to be, go to school in Chicago.
Yes.
And then you're part of it by default, and not necessarily by default. You still have to be involved, but as a young person, you can evolve as an artist within the community. It is harder as someone who's older to go in and just do auditions, because at the caliber of everybody on this chat, the level of gift that people have on this chat, it takes a lot of trust for a theater company to hire any of us, because the roles that we would be playing are larger roles. We're not necessarily, like, I know I am not, the last time I was in an ensemble was in the last millennium. Because I'm tall and gangly, weird and loud. So people would be like, I didn't know that lady lived here. Like, everybody would look at me like, no, not good. So I know that I'm not great for those ensemble roles, particularly also because the female ensemble in many shows is comprised of young women who are going to like dance around in their 19th century underwear and sing a song about picnic baskets. And that ain't me. So it takes a lot of trust to cast someone like Randa or cast someone like you, Katie, and Akira. Like, as far as that goes, you very much are in that chorus girl niche, so it would probably be a little bit easier for you to break into somewhere like that just because of your abilities, just point blank, and your type.
It's still hard, but it's still hard.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I agree, it is cliquey in Chicago as well. But yeah, great question, Randa. Paul, were you going to say something?
Just that the adage that I always heard when I was thinking about moving out was, If you want to be rich, go to LA. You want to be famous, go to New York. You want to work, go to Chicago.
Yeah.
So as cliquey as it is, there's also just a plethora of the theater companies and productions happening all the time. So a great place to beef up your resume too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
I also feel. Sorry.
Go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I also feel like Chicago is a great hub for regional work. So like, if you're willing to travel outside the city and you just want to use that as your home base, your audition base, great, because you're like centralized, guys. You can just travel. It's great.
Lots of airports.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Randa?
I was going to say that I know we talk about those big three and like those are like the places, but there are many, many other cities that will allow you to work as an actor. I have plenty of friends in Kansas City and Minneapolis who work consistently.
St. Louis,
yes,
Cincinnati,
Atlanta. There are
Atlanta.
places to go. So if any of those three places sounds like not the right place for you, there are plenty of options.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that you said about Chicago, if you want to work, go to Chicago, Paul. It reminds me of that story that Robert Falls would tell of opening night of Aida on Broadway, where he had, like, they had compiled this cast. They had all worked in Chicago on the workshopping, and they had done out of town tryout in Chicago. They actually had taken it to Atlanta for a secondary out of town, and they had then taken it to Broadway. And it's a huge show, huge. And he said to everybody on opening night, okay, isn't this great? You guys, we made it to Broadway. Isn't that the icing on the cake? But remember, Atlanta and Chicago are the cake. So like the work that they had done, like Chicago is the cake is one of those things that I continually remember. Like the substance of your career is not necessarily Broadway. That's the icing, right? Like that's the sweet reward for the other stuff that you're getting. I mean, cake's pretty good too, right? But yeah, remember that regional work that's the cake and Broadway's kind of the icing. So yeah, awesome. Paul.
Yes, that's what we said.
Sorry, I'm like watching the mute buttons today and I'm like on it and I apologize. I'm going to take it in another direction as well, Miss Katie, for my question for you. All I want to know, like, I know we often talk about our education and we talk about how we've had our challenges and what those different challenges are. One of the things I really respect about you as an educator and in these table talks and as an artist is that you don't hesitate to talk about your mental health. And I think that that's something that a lot of people keep like under wraps. So I think that's amazing. My question has nothing to do with that. I just wanted to give you some snaps for your snap cup. My question is, in your performing career, not your education, not like when you were third tree from the left in second grade, like in your performing career, what was your favorite like on stage moment? What do you think is the moment where it felt like it was the peak? Like not a funny story, not something went wrong, but like that moment where you were in it and you open your eyes and that like it was the dream.
Paulette, Legally Blonde, Ireland Reprise.
Yes. Was it every day?
Every time. Every time.
Tell them a little bit about Legally Blonde and Paulette and all that.
Yeah. So, you know, we all know Legally Blonde is what it is. It's a problematic show, yet it is fun. Kind of. It is. I enjoy it. I like my character. So Round Barn Theater, 2017. Is that right? Okay. My years, they fly, guys. 2017 summer, we were doing Legally Blonde. I was Paulette. And it was like, the whole role itself was just a great experience. I felt like it was one of the most out there roles that I gotten to do professionally. Like leading lady, like, I mean, secondary, but still, like, I was prevalent, right? I don't get a whole lot of chances for that. But when I do, like, life, it's the best. But yeah, I got to dance in that show. The director loved that I could dance, like, used it for him, like, his vision, which I love because I never get to dance. I'm not expected to dance most times with my body type, but I can dance. And so I miss it. I love it so much. So I got to dance. I got to be funny, yet Paulette is finding her like sexiness, like her beauty. She's finding her inner beauty. Yeah. And so it was just a great moment. And that particular spot, I was always worried about it. And here's why. Because I would say my line to Elle, and then I'd go to run down stage and I'd have to get on the stairs. And I always thought that when I went to take my step down the stairs to start belting my face off, that I would trip and roll down the stairs into the front row's lap every time. Was scared to death of it. I'm afraid of heights. So, and I've fallen down many stages. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for me, guys. But I didn't, luckily. So I'd get down on my step and I'd plant myself and I'd belt my face off and I'd hit my high note and the audience would go crazy and Dawn would be backstage like just partying it up every time, and I'd come off and I'd have the biggest high of my life because I had just belted my face off, and it got great response and it sounded good, guys. Like, I am not one to always be proud of my singing, but in those moments I was like, felt good, and I miss it.
I miss it too.
Yeah.
I remember working on that reprise very carefully and finding the right tempo to make sure that you got down those steps in time. And every time watching it, it was like a little victory.
Paul is a patient man, y'all. He takes such good care of you as a music director.
It's true.
I will say this. So that I came to the contract at the end of that show. And so the first show that I saw at Round Barn was Plain and Fancy, and Katie played Emma. And then seeing her transition then into Paulette in seeing Legally Blonde was a wonderful experience for me. Also, after having been in a couple of rehearsals with her. So knowing her and seeing her do two totally different roles is, I wish that everyone could see that and know how incredibly talented that she is.
You're gonna make me cry again. Stop it. It's like a secret competition for the panel. Do you like see how many times you can make me cry in an episode? Is that
No.
No, apropos of nothing, I have some pictures here of puppies in arm slings.
Oh, that won't do anything.
Barking up the wrong tree there.
That don't usually get me. It's other things.
That's so funny. Yeah, those magic moments are pretty rare and pretty great. So I was curious. I'm glad I asked.
Yeah.
So that's great. Hey, that's the end of our episode for today. On that beautiful, uplifting, and magical, sparkly note, we're gonna end our episode for today. Woo woo. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Paul, final thoughts.
I'm gonna steal one from Katie here and say, live your life, live your dreams.
I love it. Akira, final thoughts for today.
Live your life, live your dream.
It's quote Katie Day. Randa.
Hey, live your life, live your dreams.
There's a
Also,
consensus.
I love Miss Katie.
Oh, absolutely. My closing thought today is that, like, I hope that as we have talked about, like, Paul and Randa and Katie's journeys as becoming artists, I hope that you guys are really observing the incredible differences between how people get to where they are and how all of us are on a path and nobody has reached a destination. That doesn't really exist. We're all just working and continuing to create art together. And Katie, I feel today like there were moments within your stories and the stuff that you were talking about today that sort of lit a fire for me. So I think that that's incredible. Thank you for sharing all of that with us today. And Katie, any final thoughts?
I just love you guys a lot. Thanks for being part of my tribe.
Yes, exactly. Oh, thank you, Katie, for being in the hot seat today. Now, as always, we love your comments and questions. Be sure to pop those down below. Everybody show them where to put those comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our wonderful Table Talk series. Next week, we are interviewing Miss Akira Watanabe. So if you have any special questions for Akira, I can relay those on as well. As always, thank you, Goshen Noon Kiwanis. We would not be able to do Goshen Theater Drama Club without your support. So thank you so much for that. Don't forget to tune in for next week's episode. Send us those comments and questions and hot takes. And thank you guys so much for tuning in.